Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one we're going to be looking at my team selection ahead of Game Week 21. Of course, at time of recording this evening we are still midway through Game Week 20. We've just had the wrap up of Manchester United versus Crystal Palace, but we've still got the Manchester City versus Tottenham Hotspur fixture to play tomorrow. So I've still got three players. I've got Harry Kane, Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland, of course, yet to play. But yeah, let's have a look at how we got on very, very shortly, guys. If you're new to the channel and you do like what you see, then consider subscribing to me. It's completely free. And of course, yeah, plenty of content coming your way still for the rest of the season. Of course, as well, if you enjoy the content, guys, smash that like button below. So let's have a look at how we got on then. So anybody that's been following the channel over the past week or so, or of course tuned into my live stream on Game Week 20, I did decide to make the move on the triple captainship. Of course, after a bit of evaluation, I think I did it in my final thoughts video last week, between Erling Haaland and Rashford, it was very, very close. Of course, Rashford was the kind of, the pick based on my heart and rather than my head, essentially, being a United fan. Of course, Haaland then blanked against Manchester United in the Manchester derby, and Rashford went and scored 10 points. So it felt like an absolute massive win after that game. It was the 12:30 kickoff. The curse of that kind of early kickoff worked in our favour massively. But of course, we have still got the Man City Tottenham game to play. So I know some people, of course, have triple captained Haaland. A lot of people probably have captained Haaland as well. So I'm definitely anticipating that the rank you see below you is definitely, or below me, sorry, is definitely going to be a little bit adjusted. So we scored 93 points. With a -4, it was 89 points in total. It's catapulted me from 750k basically at the start of this week to currently 250k. But again, this is mid through the week, so I don't anticipate that we'll keep that rank. I think we'll probably end up around the 350k mark, but it really does depend actually on Erling Haaland. If he explodes and gets a hat-trick, then absolutely, we're probably going to be maybe down into the 500,000 area. But to be honest, I'm still very, very happy with that. If it works out that way, that's still another green arrow, I think, guaranteed at this point. So yeah, very, very happy with what's happened since the restart. But yeah, I think 12 points overall for Marcus Rashford was still a decent enough output. I think it's the maximum points I've ever scored in FPL with a triple captainship. I think the worst has been 1 point. I think I triple captained Mane when he got injured after 30 minutes, right, at 1 point in one of the seasons. So I think the most I'd scored up to that point was maybe 10. So to score 12 extra points, I feel like it was, it was still a good decision. We have got possible double game weeks ahead of us, though, where Rashford will possibly play Palace in the reverse fixture at Old Trafford and potentially Leeds or Brentford as well. So, that's a very, very good double game week. And I can see that, there was, of course, that, hesitation for certain managers to not use the chip in this week and just hold out for maybe a little bit more favourable fixtures. But 36 is still, I think, like I say, a formidable score given the circumstances that I think most people were put off by that Manchester City fixture. Of course, the irony is, again, sort of, I guess the main talking point is the chip, is that when I broke down the statistics between Rashford and Haaland, my argument really was that I felt that Haaland and Rashford would probably do better in the second fixture of the double game week. So I anticipated that maybe both of them would blank in the Manchester derby. And then, of course, the away fixture for United against Palace would be where Rashford picked up most of his points, and Haaland would pick up most of his points against Spurs at home. We're yet to obviously determine on what Haaland's output will be, but definitely disappointed with Rashford in terms of that display tonight, right? He just didn't really seem at his best. Of course, we've seen him in absolute massive hot streak form of recent, but I just felt like maybe this game came a little bit too quickly after he obviously picked up that little kind of knock to his hip in the Manchester derby. That being said, though, again, all things considered, I'm still very, very happy with the 12 points I've scored overall. The other thing really to mention, I guess, I've got a couple of obviously consistent players in there, with Trippier again coming in with 9 points. It's just absolutely ridiculous at this stage now. Odegaard, of course, scoring as well. Fantastic result for Arsenal there in the London derby, scoring an absolute rocket from about 35 yards out. So very happy to, of course, own him in the squad. Christian Eriksen was actually the transfer I made for the -4. So I'd already done Darwin to Kane ahead of his injury news and just essentially Kane's double, right? And then basically last minute, I think it was literally 1 minute until the deadline hit, I made the move from Mason Mount to Christian Eriksen. If I had the money, I would have loved to have been able to get to Bruno, but it just obviously didn't work out that way. And we now know that Bruno obviously went and scored himself 18 points across the 2 games, which is phenomenal stuff. So congratulations to you if you did go for him. But still overall, with that -4 taken into consideration on Mason Mount, I'm still 1 point overall better off, right? Because the 3 points from Mason Mount, the -4, would have obviously equated to 7. Eriksen scored me 8. Overall, I'm 1 point better off. So not a fantastic result, but it's still a plus, right? And we take those small wins where we can. So really, the only other kind of thing to mention before we move on into how the squad is doing for Game Week 21 is kind of missed opportunities, I suppose, on the bench, right? I had Estepinian and Bueno both coming in with clean sheets against their opponents, so 6 points apiece. Sam Greenwood, he is pretty much bench fodder, I think, at this point. And now Leeds have gone and signed Rutter, and with Nonto on such good form, I really don't feel like he's going to get any minutes, right? So he's probably going to become the third bench option more than likely for moving forward for me. But yeah, a couple of missed opportunities there, I suppose. Both of those single game weekers outscoring Luke Shaw's 4 points today, thanks to that 91st minute Elise free kick. Of course, Rodrigo only scoring 2 points as well, right? So definitely could have scored a little bit more as well on top of the points I've already got. But again, I can't complain based on how well this game week has gone for me so far. So let me know in the comments, guys, on how you've got on so far. Are you on triple captain Haaland? Are you waiting for a brace at least, or something really from him to save your week? Did you go differential on Kane or De Bruyne maybe? Let me know in the comments how you're getting on. I really do hope it does turn out to be a green arrow for you. So let's have a look at how the team is shaping up for Game Week 21 then. We've got, of course, the defence to be talking about first of all. Now, I do have Danny Ward against Brighton at home as a possible option here, but based on form, I'm really conscious that Brighton could do some damage against Leicester, even away from home. So I actually think that I might just back Kepa in terms of the potential save points. And with the amount of Liverpool injuries there are currently, I think Kepa just gets the nod slightly ahead of Danny Ward, even though it is a tricky fixture, or the most difficult fixture, I guess, out of the two of them on paper, right? So I'm happy, I think, to play Kepa again this week. He's done absolute wonders for me over the past few weeks. I didn't go for like a Kepa and an Ederson, as I know some individuals have. I never gave myself that kind of benching headache. I was always planning to play Kepa as my first keeper. And to be honest, he's showcased just that little bit more. And Liverpool, of course, have showed not enough for me to be able to feel like the clean sheet could get wiped out, whereas Brighton are a team on the up, and I genuinely believe that this is the time to go for Kepa once again. I've of course got then the double Newcastle defence again against Crystal Palace. Of course, they've had this midweek fixture. It is an away fixture, of course. Again, it is at Selhurst Park. Vieira did make some changes this evening, so it wasn't maybe the exact same squad. I think it was about 4 or 5 changes from the weekend. So potentially they come out and they are still very, very strong. But this Newcastle defence is so formidable at the moment that I just can't go against them. I have Luke Shaw on the bench as an option. I have Bueno against City, which is never really going to be... he's never really going to come in. And I think with the situation now with Manchester United losing Casemiro... Of course, if you haven't watched the game tonight, he picked up that yellow card, which means a suspension for him against Arsenal. He is so pivotal in Manchester United's defensive output that I think Luke Shaw is maybe a little bit too risky to play ahead of one of these guys. And then, of course, Estepinian as well, somebody that I've wanted to play for a while. I think I've only played him once since bringing him in on the wild card. From the World Cup, and I think he actually only scored me 2 points. I think it was that Everton penalty that wiped his clean sheet out last minute. So I haven't got the best out of him as of yet. I haven't got the most points from him, so I'm hoping this is a clean sheet potential for him. Then moving into the midfield next up, unchanged here again with Rodrigo, Eriksen, Rashford, De Bruyne and Odegaard. Rodrigo's fixture, I think, looks absolutely fantastic. Tonight against Cardiff, he got an assist and a goal. Only played 45 minutes as well before Bamford come on and scored a brace himself. I do think that Rodrigo gets a decent amount of minutes against Brentford at home. It is just worth noting, I have seen that people have, of course, mentioned him, and I put him on my watch list as well for this week. Again, I will just caveat this, that there is a potential blank in Game Week 25 for Leeds. They have also signed a new attacker in Rutter, and of course Bamford being back from injury and Nonto playing in the way he's playing at the moment, it could actually start meaning that Rodrigo plays that little bit deeper. He still managed to bag the goal, of course, against Cardiff this evening, and the assist, which is great, right? From a midfielder perspective, we want those returns. I'm just not sure I would back him longer term than that. So he's definitely someone that I will consider moving on between now and game week 25. I just think he's a great option for this week, and the possibility, of course, of his game week 22 double as well. Christian Eriksen and Rashford both got Arsenal away. Am I anticipating much from these two? I mean, Rashford is in the form of his life. Eriksen, of course, he does crop up with an assist or two here and there. I do think that it could suit Manchester United's a little bit better than maybe Palace was this evening, for example, right? It's going to be a slightly open game, or I say slightly open. It's going to be a lot more open than I think Palace were at Selhurst this evening. So I think Rashford definitely is going to be able to find a lot more space to run into from the left-hand side. It's just Arsenal was such a formidable defence at the moment. I'm not 100% convinced that we can come away with a result there. But of course, I always back the attackers in fixtures like this. I haven't got the defenders, right? I haven't got Luke Shaw playing. I haven't got Ben White, for example, or any other Arsenal defender. I'm backing the attackers to essentially score goals, right? A piece for both teams. We've then got Kevin De Bruyne. We did have some news that he missed training this week. And we've now had Pep confirm earlier on today that he should be making that Tottenham game tomorrow night. But he may be one to keep an eye on if things change. I can't really go anywhere with him, though, at the moment. In terms of this Wolves fixture is such a good fixture at home as well. I think that I need to be keeping him. There is a possibility that I may go for someone like Bruno Fernandes in the form that he showed, especially if United double. My only question mark over that is the fact I've already got triple United, so I'd have to probably move Eriksen on, maybe for someone, a Brighton player, of course. But then it really puts me in a bit of a tricky situation for the game week 25 blanks, where two of those transfers I've just mentioned play for teams that potentially could blank. So we need to get more news before I understand what I'm going to be doing, which is likely why he stays in the team and I probably go into 21 rolling. Then, of course, last but not least, we have Martin Odegaard. I think now that Casemiro has got that booking, he's definitely going to crop up in that midfield area and have a lot more space than I think I would have anticipated him to have should we have had Casemiro in that game. I definitely feel like Fred and McTominay are not going to be able to do as good of a job as what Casemiro could have done on him. That being said, though, I was very impressed with how Fred dealt with Kevin De Bruyne in the Manchester derby. So if he can do a similar type of role against Odegaard, I could definitely see him being shut out. And my money would probably be on the wingers of Martinelli and Saka actually being the kind of more threatening of the Arsenal attackers this week. But again, it's something that we'll have a look at. I'm still very happy to own him long term, right? We're never owning assets just for 1 week, and I'm definitely not going to be selling him ahead of that double in game week 23. Then moving into the forward line, I do have, of course, the 3-5-2 formation where I've got Harry Kane and Erling Haaland up front. I think, this is a tricky fixture in some ways for Harry Kane. Fulham have definitely been a team on the up since the World Cup restart. I think they're actually mid-table now in terms of chances conceded, and just overall, I think that they've improved a lot in terms of their defensive output. And Craven Cottage already, I think, prior to the restart, was also a difficult area to go to, or a difficult stadium to go to. So we'll have to see what output Kane has against Manchester City. I do think that's going to be a tough game for him, so we'll see how we get on. I'm very, very tempted to maybe put the captaincy armband on him for a differential again, but I'm just not so sure I can take 3 weeks in a row of a risk against Erling Haaland, especially if he goes and bags at least a brace tomorrow against Spurs, right? So he's obviously the second striker against Wolves at home. Fantastic fixture once again for him. I'm just not sure I can overlook him for captaincy as well. So it's food for thought, but just I feel like I'm probably going to default back to him. And that brings us into the captaincy, vice captaincy and the bench then. So currently captaincy is on Haaland, vice captaincy on De Bruyne. That may move just to somebody else that's got a different fixture, of course. But then, as I mentioned, Danny Ward, the keeper on the bench for me, definitely has the easier fixture on paper, but I'm just not so sure that I back them keeping a clean sheet against Brighton. I just think they're a team on the up. They're looking fantastic under De Zerbi, and I just genuinely believe that Kepa, I think, is the better choice out of these two keepers this week. I do have Shaw as the first bench option. I don't necessarily feel like my bench is going to come into play this week, but you never know. Of course, as mentioned, without Casemiro, I think it's a bit of a risk going for a Manchester United defender this week. But after this Arsenal fixture, we've got a phenomenal run, and of course as well a potential double game week in 22. Sam Greenwood Greenwood there against Brentford at home. He's second bench just because Bueno has a very difficult fixture against City. Otherwise, I'd probably move him to third bench. And then, yeah, of course, as mentioned, Bueno against City, very, very difficult fixture there. So overall, that is how my squad is shaping up, guys. I haven't got any transfer plans as I usually do on the back end of these videos as well, just because I'm pretty certain I'm going to roll. I'm not convinced that there's a move that I could make or need to be making in this week. I feel like I've got a very good coverage of teams that I want to cover over the next few weeks. And of course, I need to be putting a bit more of a longer term plan in place for that game week 25 possible blanks once we get some more news on kind of cut results and extra fixtures, right? So there's a couple of hesitations really on this game week for me to make any moves. But let me know in the comments below, guys, what your plans are, what you'd possibly do with my team, who your captaincy is for game week 21 as well, of course. Yeah, I will be doing a live stream as always for game week 21, so feel free to join me on that this weekend, guys. But as mentioned, I hope you had a fantastic week. For those that backed me and even captained Rashford, let alone triple captained him, congratulations so far. We may be able to pop the champagne tomorrow if Erling Haaland blanks again, boys, but it wasn't to be this week. We didn't get a hat-trick or any type of return on the second fixture. This smile definitely could have been a bigger one, but I'm still going to take it, guys. I'm glad that any of you did obviously back me with that decision, if you did, and I hope a green arrow is on the way for you guys too. So thank you again for watching, guys. If you're new to the channel, of course, then do subscribe, and of course, yeah, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the content as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in another video soon.